apartment complex, and Roark now, his career is truly underway. Because Roark's work, of course, at this point, comes to, with the Enright House, comes to the attention of Ellsworth Toohey, another fascinating character. It's very meaty. We can spend a lot of time discussing. Toohey is an architectural critic by profession. Mostly, though, he's a Marxist intellectual seeking to establish a communist dictatorship in America. Toohey, at the personal level, is also a cult leader, and I think one of many interesting things in The Fountainhead is here Ayn Rand in the writing in the late 30s and early 40s, predicting the rise of cults in the United States in the character of Toohey. You know, the cults that follow subsequently in American history, people like Jim Jones and David Koresh and Sun Myung Moon. That Toohey has this whole army of personal followers who render him blind obedience. And of course, Toohey's specialty, both at the personal level and at the political level, is to drain the independence of his victims and turn them into blind followers. Toohey, of course, is seeking to inculcate a whole army of blind followers as a necessary means towards the establishment of the collectivist dictatorship he seeks. So he hates the independent Roark, and indeed any individual who will not follow orders. Dominique Francon and Dominique and Ellsworth Toohey both write for the New York Banner. I think of the Post as the Banner, you know. Sometimes I'll go up to the newsstand and I'll ask the guy, I want a copy of the Banner. Generally the guys at the newsstand they do a double take. They don't know what I'm talking about. But one time I had a guy just pick up a copy of the Post and hand it to me. So obviously he had read The Fountainhead. Anyhow, the Banner is a popular yellow press scandal sheet owned by the pandering publisher Gail Wynand. Now, Dominique and Toohey both write for Wynand's paper, and a fascinating point in the story, I think, they form an alliance to wreck Roark's career. I think of it in my own mind as the anti-Roark alliance. They say politics makes strange bedfellows. Dominique and Toohey approaching this from diametrically opposite moral, political, and philosophical principles, but they agree on one thing: Roark's career must be ended. For Toohey, it's an act of spiritual murder. There's no place for such an independent thinker in the communist society he seeks to build. For Dominique, on the other hand, it's an act of spiritual mercy killing. It's an act of spiritual euthanasia. She believes there's no room in a corrupt society for the exalted works of a great hero like Howard Roark, and she wants him to die quickly and painlessly, as opposed to a long, agonizing, drawn-out death, as with Cameron. And above all, she wants his career to end at her hands, at the hands of somebody who loves him, admires him, and reveres him, not at the hands of a society that scorns him. Either way, Toohey and Dominique agree on one thing: Roark's career must die. Toohey wants to save his world from Roark. Dominique wants to save Roark from the world. But they agree on one thing: Roark's career must end. When Roark's magnificent temple of the human spirit is torn down by an outraged society, an act of destruction that's orchestrated by Toohey, this is Dominique's worst nightmare come true. And in an attempt, because she had, in effect, part of the reason she resists Roark at the granite quarry and for years throughout the story until the end, is she's convinced that Roark's going to be destroyed. And for her, who loves and admires him so much, watching Roark be slowly destroyed like Cameron was is just the worst kind of pain. You might as well just stick the knife in her and just keep twisting it. This is why she doesn't want to get involved with Roark. And so but she does, because she's irresistibly attracted to him. And so when the started temple is torn down, this is Dominique's worst nightmare come true. It's like Dominique's attitude is, what an idiot I am. I knew this was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. And still, I let myself become intimately involved in a passionate love relationship with him. You notice what she does here. She marries Keating. Why? It's an attempt to anesthetize her pain. by killing off, she's trying to kill off her spiritual capacity for hero worship. It's her capacity for hero worship in an anti-hero society that's responsible for her pain. So she's trying to kill off that capacity that worships human beings at their highest and best. How do you do that? Dominique chooses the best way possible. She marries the lowest, low-life creep she can imagine. Well, maybe second to Toohey, who's asexual, so there's no hope there. But she marries Keating, and you figure if you spend your years, setting up Peter Keating's appointments and being the hostess for Peter Keating and sleeping with Peter Keating, you kill off, if anything can kill off your capacity for hero worship, that would do it. Except Dominique fails. Her soul is so essentially pure and noble, she does not succeed in killing it off. Now, despite the destruction of the started temple and Dominique's ensuing agony, notice that Roark continues to move ahead. Slowly, he's put up some prominent buildings by this time, including, of course, the Enright House, the Cord Building, and several others. And his buildings attract the attention of a small number of independent thinkers, and Roark is kept working. The independent thinkers who are unaffected by Toohey's propaganda or by Dominique's whining and dining them away from Roark and Keating. Roark is kept working. Now, enter upon the scene in a big way Gail Wynand. Now, Wynand, of course, despite his pandering to the masses in an attempt to gain wealth and power, Wynand is a creative genius in the field of journalism and in real estate as well. Wynand is a man of prodigious creativity who's risen out of the slums of Hell's Kitchen on the west side of Manhattan, risen out of the slums of Hell's Kitchen to an enormous success by virtue of his own hard work. He's got creative ability. He's created this empire from nothing. So, and Wynand, in his own personal life, of course, like Dominique, is an idealist. He worships human greatness, human beings at their noblest and their most exalted. Now, Wynand identifies and stifles an attempt on the part of Toohey to control editorial policy on the Banner. It's the Gallant Gallstone campaign. And Wynand's too smart. He's just too sharp. Toohey needs to distract him. Toohey needs to distract his attention away from the Banner and two other things. And this is why Toohey introduces Wynand and Dominique. He hopes that Wynand and Dominique have an affair that'll be so torrid that'll deflect the publisher's interest and attention from his newspaper. But of course, Toohey miscalculates. And Wynand falls in love with Dominique and marries her, bringing into the life of the publisher of the Banner an influence that Toohey definitely does not want there, because Dominique is the one person in the story who understands Toohey and knows just how completely evil he is. Roark probably does too, but Roark could care less about Toohey. Now, Wynand, of course, hires Roark to build a private home for him and Dominique. They recognize in each other, Dominique and Wynand do this. Roark and Wynand recognize in each other that you could go back and reread that scene at the beginning of Part 4, or early in Part 4. You go back and reread that first meeting between Roark and Wynand. In fact, maybe we can read it later on. It's just brilliant. I mean, the whole book is brilliant, but this is like love at first sight. It's between two men who are both hopelessly heterosexual, so there's no romantic involvement here. But nevertheless, this is more than friendship that forms immediately between Roark and Wynand. This is a bond that can only be described as a love relationship. They recognize the core of each other as enormously independent and creative, and the energy to change the world. Now, Wynand, of course, who's created an empire in journalism as well as in real estate, uses his influence to begin to bring work to Roark. whom he identifies as a superb builder and a genius. And you see the arc of Roark's career going up based entirely on his merit. Now, Toohey, of course, we come to the climax. Toohey controls a governmental housing project, which is called Cortlandt Homes. Keating seeks the commission. But Keating understands he cannot do the work. It's way beyond Keating's ability to solve the structural problems. But he knows somebody who can. And he brings the specifications to Roark. Nice to have, Roark as your old college, not exactly buddy, but an old college acquaintance. And they agree on terms. Roark will design the project, which will be constructed exactly as he designs it, which is his payment for his work. That the building will be erected exactly in accordance with his plan. And Keating will receive the credit for it. Keating will receive the commission. Keating will receive the recognition. They sign a contract. Toohey accepts the design, but hires associate architects who alter Roark's plan. One of those associate architects are Gordon L. Prescott and Gus Webb, two hysterically comical characters in this story we may not have enough time to discuss as we go along. Ayn Rand's biting satire on modernist culture. Now, they alter Roark's design, of course. Now, Roark, who cannot sue the government, is left with one recourse. He enlists Dominique's aid. He blows up the housing project, which is his intellectual property, and he surrenders to the police in order to stand trial for the dynamite. Wynand defends Roark ferociously in the Banner. Toohey disobeys his boss's order and attacks Roark in his column. Wynand fires him. Toohey, who by this time controls the union of Wynand employees, takes his followers out on strike. Wynand's readers prefer the vulgar, lowbrow material that he's been pandering, he's been slopping out for decades, to the noble ideal that he's now supporting, and of course the circulation drops precipitously. To save the paper, Wynand reverses his stand and condemns Roark. When the Labor Board reinstates Toohey, of course, will now control editorial policy on the paper, just as he had predicted he would. Wynand closes the paper rather than turn his life's work over to somebody he recognizes as a contemptible villain. And notice how Toohey's defeated in both of his main quests in this story. Toohey wants to stop Roark, and he wants to take over Wynand's paper. He fails abysmally at both. We'll discuss that later. At his trial, Roark defends the right of a creator to his intellectual property. He gives an intellectual defense, arguing that the creator of a product or a good is the owner of it. Society can have it only on his terms. His terms were not met. Consequently, he withdrew the product of his mind. He's acquitted. Keating's testimony for the prosecution exposes him as a fraud who takes credit for another man's work. Keating's career was on a downward arc to start with. He's now finished. Roger Enright buys the rights to Cortlandt Homes and hires Roark to build it exactly as Roark designed it. Gail Wynand hires Roark in the last creative act of his career to build the Wynand Building, the highest skyscraper in New York City and in the world. Roark has now reached the apex of commercial success, and like Frank Sinatra, he's done it his way. Notice how the story ends, literally and figuratively, with Roark at the top of the world. He is at the height of the highest skyscraper in the world, with the woman he loves, now his wife, ascending to meet him. And so Roark, it's total triumph. Right? Roark wins the battle and gets the girl. So that's the synopsis of the story. Before we jump into plunging into analyzing the profound meaning that Ayn Rand generates here or dramatizes in this story, does anybody have any questions or comments?
Do you think there is anything to the quality of Toohey's name